Tracy with Go Rentals.
Thank you so much. I know everyone's probably anxious for lunch, so I'm just going to take a few minutes. First, I appreciate the sponsorship. We're always happy to be here. So grateful last year if y'all were here. It's torrential, so this is so much more beautiful. So we appreciate that. So as Jim mentioned, Trissy Pickett, not Prickett, but I do get that. It's okay. Some days I would agree with that. No, I've been with Go Rentals over 10 years and Vice President of Aviation Development. When I started, there was 14 locations. So we hope by the end of 24, we will be pushing 250. So it's been phenomenal. Prior to that, I worked for an FBO chain for 10 years, a little over 10 years. So very passionate about our industry. I've had the benefit and the ability to always focus on service. So those who know me always give me a hard time. I always get to speak about the fluffy stuff, not about the technology. If y'all are technological, you're the smartest people in the room to me. So I'm just going to spend just a few minutes talking about obviously Go Rentals and some of the benefits, and then just share a few things. So for those of you who don't know, we are a private aviation only rental car company. We don't rent to the public, and as I mentioned, currently we're in almost 175 FBOs across the country. We're on site. We're in your FBOs 7 days a week. Our goal is always to take the rental car hassle, if you will, and I started as a CSR, and it can be a hassle, away from you, and allow your teams to focus on the business of the FBO, safety, upselling fuel, selling hangar space, chit-chatting with those pilots who love that. And so we're able to come in and really elevate the service. We are the only Forbes-rated rental car company ever in the history of Forbes. We just recently were awarded that again for 24, and we're very proud of that, and we don't take that lightly. Certainly, I feel like a lot of you, as I look, are very familiar with Go Rentals and are friends and partners of ours, but always happy to continue that conversation with Go Rentals. So as I was coming here, we actually coincidentally are right in the middle of having corporate training. So we have 32 new hires. They're in Fort Lauderdale from across the country, and will spend the week with us as we train them. Interestingly, only 5 hours of that is on rental cars. The rest is on service. But I have to return there, so I apologize when I slip out. But as I was flying in on Monday, 5 a.m., those of you who love those early flights, very tired, had just flown in from the corporate office from California the Friday previously, so very tired, feeling a little bit, poor me, I'm on a plane again, feeling like my life is on a plane. And, then you're sitting there and your mind starts to wander. So I'm sitting there on Monday and I'm thinking about right, Scott, how many flights have I probably been in my X amount of years, which I won't tell you. How many times have I flown? How many places have I been? So anyway, that's kind of where I was headed in my brain, which took me to, what are some of the more profound, am I making a difference in my whole life, not just as an adult, but what are some of the places that have been really profound and impactful for me? So immediately I went back to when I was a very small girl. And I was actually, I think, about 5.5 years old. And my parents came to us. We were not a family of wealth at all. In fact, it would be nothing for us to come home and the electricity was turned off. And we're like, oh, Dad forgot to pay the power bill. Totally normal for us, for my mom to go through the grocery store with a calculator and at the cash register being mortified because she's like, oh, no, I can't take that. And, she's putting items back. And I'm like, that was my cereal. But that was my life. So no big deal. So for my parents to sit down with me and my 3 brothers and say, we're going to go on a trip. Really, not only a trip, we are going to Disneyland. Oh my goodness, so we are ecstatic. I'm the youngest, and so my 3 older brothers were a little bit more subdued than me, but I was so ecstatic. So we go on a plane, it's my first plane ride. We go on a plane to Disneyland in California. We land, we're jumping on the hotel beds. I'd never been into a hotel room. All of these things were so amazing. We get up the next morning, we're standing outside the gate waiting for the doors to open. Magical, as they say, amazing. So I'm thinking about that and remembering the memories of that, and obviously very, very fond memories for me. Immediately takes me to another very, very different, but very, very profound trip that I had taken not too long ago. It was a trip to my dad's funeral. So as I sat there, remembering that trip on the plane, very, very, of course, devastated, thinking about all the memories, thinking that as a child, you never imagined being at that point. Like, how did this happen, and how am I now going to my dad's funeral? So we get there. It was a beautiful day in sunny Florida. It was a beautiful day. The weather was nice. I had a service that picked me up at the airport, seamless. We get to where the service is beautiful. The lawn was beautiful. It is such a sad moment. It was still such a beautiful day. Listening to my family members, we stood up one by one speaking about my dad. Touched his casket for the last time and wondering if that's the last time I'll ever see him, at least in this lifetime. And all of those emotions, right, that we're going through. The awning was set up, and the day overall was a success. It was beautiful. So what is the importance? Why am I sharing that? Why did that come to my mind when I was thinking about this event? So some things that I didn't add is that, yes, we flew and we stayed in hotels, and yes, we ate at restaurants and we rented cars and things like that. But when I think of those memories, those are not the things that I remember. When I sit with my siblings, those are not the things that we recall. My family had a purpose. The purpose of the Disneyland trip, of course, was to go with my family and to build memories and to establish all of those fun relationships and build them. Of course, the purpose of the trip with my father was to lay my father to rest and to pay tribute to him. Purpose completely accomplished. Both of those, right? The purpose was very, very clear. Behind those purposes were processes. And there were nameless and faceless people that had many, many processes in place that allowed us as a family to accomplish our process. So at Go Rentals, we recognize that process. We recognize we're not the purpose. People don't wake up with a to-do list that says, we're going to rent a Go Rentals car today, we're going to hop in it, drive, take it back, and go back home and check the box. That's our purpose. It's not. We are simply part of the process, just as an FBO is. I think that gets lost sometimes. There's if you think about things in your life, events and things that you've had that have been amazing, the small details, the processes that lit up to your purpose, whatever the purpose of that event was or that trip, that experience. There's so many processes that are happening in the background. I don't know who set up the chairs at my father's funeral. I don't know who mowed the beautiful grass. I don't know who did the awning, set up the awning for us. It was seamless, almost invisible. We just showed up, but those processes allowed our family to complete our purpose. So as I think about when we're going through, and again, I worked in the aviation or the FBO industry for many, many years, and I think particularly today in the world that we live in, it's okay if you're a few minutes late, right? And I'm going to call out sick, and yeah, I was supposed to be there 10 minutes ago, but it's all right. Or worse, today's my last day, by the way. That happens. There's just not the importance of and I'm old, but there's not the importance that it used to have, right, with all of the processes that are in place. And that knowledge, knowing the impact of our processes ultimately are resulting in somebody else's purpose is huge. And are we conveying that knowledge to those that work for us, for our teams that are on the ground, to these young kids that are just starting up in our industry? Again, as we're doing corporate training, I try to really impress that upon our teams that are just joining us, that it's pretty cool that you get to work around airplanes, even for us, because we're on FBOs. All of those things are very, very cool. But there's something so much bigger than us. There's a process that's happening because somebody has a purpose. If somebody's going to Dallas and they come back and we say, great, how was your trip? And they said, oh my gosh, it was a success. I had the meeting, I closed the deal, I signed the contract, whatever that looks like. We can feel a small amount of pride because we had a small part, our process had a small part in that purpose. So I think as we move forward and commit, and I'm so grateful I can tell you, we are only a part of your process because you allow us to be. And so collectively as a team, we're thrilled. And what I feel like we bring that our friends at the legacy companies don't bring is the knowledge of how important that process is. So I think two things. I think I would encourage you, and again, we do it regularly at Go Rentals, remembering what our purpose is. And our purpose is our guest purpose. So whether it be wherever they're going, whatever they're experiencing, whatever kind of trip that they're having, and a lot of us are really business-focused FBOs, but there's a purpose much bigger than us. We are just the process. And if the process is making sure that our teams understand, coffee ice papers is a big deal. Throwing the carpet is a big deal. Having the fuel truck standing by when they've called in 15 minutes out, that's a big deal. So for us to take those processes lightly, we're impacting somebody else's purpose, which is a big deal. I love what we do. I love our industry. We're very, very service-minded. That's why I left the commercial side, is that private aviation is so service-driven. And I think as long as we keep our focus on that in this industry, that the processes make up, regardless if it's safety that we just heard, regardless of what that is, that's why we're all here. X1 brings a great process to improve our processes, which improves our guests' purpose. So we all have a common goal. I would love to continue the conversation. If we're not in your FBO, helping your process, and please come find me later. Call me, email me. I do feel like, coming from the FBO side, we are impactful on your process, and we can make it better, which in turn, again, not to be redundant, impacts the end goal, which is the purpose of whoever's flying. Thank you so much. I love our partnerships that we have with everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this industry, Go Rentals. We're very, very humble about all the partnerships that we're growing. If you've met my boss, you would know that. He's very humble and kind and appreciates every single rental that we put on the road. So here's to a great 2024 as we continue to grow. And thank you so much.